Hey guys, Werenado here, and today I'm going to showcase my really fast Tornado Druid. It is a really tanky and can deal a lot of damage. It also can run really fast and complete tier 100 in like 3 or 4 minutes. So let's look into it. So, talking about our skills, as a basic attack, I'm using Wind Shear instead of Storm Strike. Storm Strike is definitely a really good option if you don't have enough damage reduction, but I prefer Wind Shear, mostly because of this passive, Fierce Wind Shear. It gives us 20% of movement speed when we attack different enemies, and this is amazing for us to go fast. Since damage reduction for a build is a pretty good position, we have a lot of armor and we have a lot of damage reduction on different items, I don't really think that we need a bonus from Storm Strike. But if your survivability is not really good, you should definitely take this one instead. But I'm currently using the Wind Shear. Moving forward, I'm taking Wild Impulses together with Heart of the Wild here and 1 point there for more spirit generation. Our main skill is Tornado, which we are kinda bringing up to the maximum, and our passive is a Raging Tornado, since it's very important to always keep vulnerable up on enemies. I'm also taking Predator Instinct, 3 points in that, together with Digigrated to go fast, which is pretty important for this build. I'm pushing only 1 point into the Cyclone Armor, and I'm taking Preserving Cyclone Armor so we can have more damage reduction from time to time. That's pretty good for 1 point, so keep it in mind. Bloodhaul is mostly defensive ability, but we still can use it to make us faster with Preserving Bloodhaul, which is a really great idea. This build excels at high attack speed, so make sure you can stack it when you need the most of your damage. As a passive skill, I'm taking Vigilance here, since when we are using both Cyclone Armor or Bloodhaul, we have damage reduction, and that's a really good option for us. I'm not taking any kind of companion skills, so we can just move forward. There is 1 point into Hurricane, together with Savage Hurricane, which is really good. It will lower the damage the enemies can deal to us, and make us survive much better. As a passives, I'm taking Neurotoxin together with Envenom. Currently Envenom is one of the best passives for Druids, so you should always stack it to the maximum together with 3 out of your amulet, so that's pretty important. Try to get it to 6 at least. And Toxic Claws so we can poison the enemies, which is a pretty good damage multiplier as well. Moving down there, I'm putting 3 points into Defensive Posture, which is a pretty good source of additional Fortify, and 3 points into Nature's Resolve. This one is really important since it mostly allows us to have more Fortify when enemies are hitting us, and they will hit us pretty a lot since we are always staying at the closer range. So I'm taking 3 into Natural Disaster here, since we always have Vulnerable up, and our skill doing much more damage that way. There's also 3 points in Circle of Life, since it's pretty important to have additional healing, and 3 points into Defiance, which is a pretty good option as well, since it's kind of free damage right here. And I'm taking Grizzly Rage as my ultimate, which is pretty much expected, together with both passives. The key passive is pretty much the most interesting part. We have a lot of options here. I'm not using Earth and Mind, mostly since it messes with Barber. Since we can proc our lucky hits on enemies affected by Barber, I don't think Earth and Mind currently is a good option for Tornado Druid. So the second option is Perfect Storm, and this one alright, it gives us additional damage and helping us with generating spirit, but I don't think the damage is enough. Since we are mostly excel at high attack speed, I prefer this one, it's Bestial Rampage. After we are Werewolf for like 2 seconds, we gain 25 attack speed bonus for 15 seconds. And this is huge, I mean, it helps us a lot. We really need this attack speed and it makes us go really fast. So I think Bestial Rampage right here is the best possible passive right now. And you should definitely try it. I'm sure you will enjoy how fast your character will act and move. So let's move forward to our Paragon board. So our Paragon board is bread and butter of the build itself. It gives us the most part of our armor and survivability, together with a lot of additional damage. I'm taking both Tenacity and Prime here, since both of them are really good. I'm passing through the left, so we get like more armor that way. And the Glyph here is Spirit, since we really need critical strike damage. The additional bonus is pretty good as well, so make sure your Spirit is 21. I'm passing through the left here and exiting through the top. The next board is Last for Carnage. It's a really good one and I'm taking Legendary Note here, since we can restore our spirit that way. It's an amazing opportunity and you should definitely use it in all of your Druid Wolf boards. I'm also taking Ferocity, since we need both Werewolf skill damage and critical strike damage. Up there I'm taking Feral, and exiting both through the top and through the left. The Glyph here is Werewolf, since we need a huge amount of additional willpower. And it will give us damage reduction as well, so it's a really good Glyph. Try to max it out as well. Exiting to the top, the next board is Inner Beast. This is one of the best boards to stack armor, so make sure it's always stacked for you. I'm taking both Shapeshifter together with Determination here, and a lot of small nodes with armor and shapeshifting damage. The Glyph here is Fang and Claw. This is a really good one since we are always at the close range, and this is a really good option for us. It gives us both armor and shapeshifting skill damage, and the placement is really good as well. I'm going to the right, taking Tenacity for maximum life and armor, together with Havoc for critical strike damage and physical damage. To the left, I'm taking Slayer for additional armor. The second bonus is not that good at potion healing, but the armor itself is really important. And we can stack a lot. We're also taking attack speed here from Nimble. It's like 5% and 10% pure damage. This one is really good as well for not a lot of points. Going back there, I'm exiting through the left. And the next board is Thunderstruck. This one is pretty important since we need to take both Legendary Note, since it's completely amazing. It's more critical strike damage against vulnerable enemies and all of our enemies always vulnerable, since we're using tornadoes. So this one, amplifier damage, really good. I'm also going there, taking Tempest and the Legends Away. The Glyph here is Territorial. I think this one is pretty good since we're always staying close to our enemies and we will have additional damage reduction that way, which is pretty good as well. I'm taking Hubris for damage reduction from vulnerable enemies, which is a pretty good source, together with Stormcaller, which is just a free damage. After all of this, I'm exiting through the top. And the next board is Constricting Tendrils. The Glyph here is Exploit. Exploit is pretty important, so I'm always trying to put it in the place when there's as much dexterity as possible. Right here we have 44, and that's pretty good additional damage. So I'm taking all the dexterity except this one, since we can't lose more points. And both Nature's Will and Courage. I'm not taking Devastation, mostly since we don't have enough points. And without enough intelligence, it could be not that good as a skill. After this one, I'm exiting through the left. And the next board is Ancestral Guidance. That pretty much happens all the time, so we could just go there, take Reclamation and Ancestral Guidance itself. So it's a really good additional damage multiplier, which can help us with dealing more, especially since we're spending a lot of spirit. So this is the whole board, If you want more damage, you can always get rid of this armor here from Slayer and some part of the Havoc and take additional passives here, 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 and here. This is definitely an option in case you need more damage and your survivability is kinda alright. But I really prefer my armor to stay high, and I think the build is stronger that way. So let's move forward. So let's look at our items and aspects. The first one is obviously Tempest Roar. This is a really good helmet and that's pretty much a must-have for most of the Storm builds. So you could aim for higher roll with lucky hit, and that's pretty much it. Everything else is not that important, but good critical strike damage could be nice as well. Moving to the next one, I'm using the chest with Vigorous aspect to have damage reduction while shapeshifted in Werewolf form. I'm also trying to get armor here, together with damage reduction from close enemies and some additional damage. Werewolf skill damage and Storm skill damage is not that important, so if you can roll more defensive stats, go ahead. In some cases, we could also use Mad Wolf's Glee, which is pretty important as well, and that could help us to be a little faster since it gives us movement speed and a little more damage. But for higher tiers like tier 100, I'm usually using this kind of chest, and I think it's pretty much sufficient. So moving forward, there is Ancestral Legendary Gloves with Storm Chaser aspect. It mostly for tornadoes to seek up our target, so it's pretty much important. Try to aim for higher attack speed, critical strike chance, lucky hit chance and ranks to tornado. If you can get all of them, try to sacrifice lucky hit chance, since we definitely need both attack speed and critical strike. Moving forward, I have Pants with aspect of Disobedience here. The stats are maximum life, damage reduction from close and total armor. Try to roll total armor on all of your items, since it's pretty important. The boots, I'm currently using it Storm Shifter, since that way we have more damage while Hurricane is active. The stats itself is speed cost reduction, movement speed and total armor while in Werewolf form. Talking about Storm Shifter, I think it's much better after the nerf of Grizzly Rage, since it's not getting you unstoppable permanently anymore. I think Storm Shifter is a decent damage bonus. If you want to go even faster, which could be a case, you could always use Wind Striker. It will give you more movement speed, which is pretty good option as well. Everything else is currently not working and pretty much outdated. And here comes a juicy part. I'm using the legendary staff instead of X and the second weapon. You will ask me why, and the main answer is I need more damage. I think the damage with staff is pretty good, especially since I can stack aspect of accelerating on it, and it will give us a lot of additional attack speed. I think it will make us go faster, and the damage itself is higher, even if it feels sometimes not that smooth. I also think we can utilize almost all of the staff bonuses, even if damage to crowd control enemies is not that good. But otherwise, staff is a really good option. You could always try to use X together with Legendary Totem for faster attacks. So that way you will put accelerating on your X, and on your second weapon you could put a critical strike damage bonus for your Blood Hole. So it's pretty much an option, but I currently prefer staff for better damage. And moving forward, I'm using the amulet here with an aspect of Direwolf. This one is pretty important and percentages should be a little higher. Mine is currently not that good rolled since I wasted my main, but that's pretty much enough to cast a lot of abilities. So, comparing the stats, you should aim for ranks of Envenom passive, total armor and movement speed, since you have like a lot of additional movement speed right here. Storm skill damage is not that important, so do not really keep it in mind. You could swap it for like damage reduction or any kind of additional damage. And the heart here is Wrathful Heart of the Barber. This one is pretty important since Barber currently in a really good position. Try to always keep it up and your damage will significantly increase. So moving forward, this is my first ring and it has the aspect of retaliation. I think it's a really good damage bonus since we have a lot of 45 when enemies are hitting us, and that's a good option. Try to aim for lucky hit chance, critical strike chance, maximum life and something like critical strike damage or damage to close enemies, anything will work. It's definitely a really good option. Moving forward, the second ring has the aspect of Rampaging Beast, which is really important. Together with this we can try to stack our critical strike damage really high, so always have it in your build. And the stats are pretty much the same as critical strike chance, lucky hit chance, and critical strike damage with Werewolf skills, which is a pretty good option. As a heart, I'm using Devil's Heart of the Calculated, so after spending some primary resource, our next attacks can stun enemies. I think it's a really good way to crowd control, especially in higher tiers, and it can make our life a little more relaxed, so I pretty much like it. Try to use it and I'm sure you won't be really disappointed. In the previous ring we are pretty much using the Brutal Heart of Revenge, since it's just best in slot for almost any build, just try to always use it. So that way we have like 16,000 of life, which is pretty good, and 8,000 of armor in human form. If we will go to the werewolf form, our armor will stack up to 10,000. Which is pretty good. We are really tanking this build and we don't have any kind of problem with survivability that way, since 10,000 of armor pretty much enough. Let's move forward. So let's look at our spirit boons. The first one is pretty obvious, it's the spirit boon of Werenado, which is pretty good, it's additional damage reduction and it works pretty well. The second one, I'm going for swooping attacks here. I really like more attack speed, so I'm always trying to stack it to the maximum, so the character will feel fast, which is pretty important. Swooping attacks is a really decent bonus for it. If you don't like going that fast, you should always take Avian Wrath here for additional critical strike damage, or Skith Talons for increased critical strike chance. Both are pretty good and decent options, but I prefer swooping attacks. Moving to the next one, it's always obvious, it's Calamity, that way we will have more duration for our ultimate skill, and it's pretty important so we can stack our Grizzly Rage, critical strike damage bonus to a maximum. Always take Calamity, and it's a pretty good option. I'm bonding with the Snake as you can see, and taking both Calm Before the Storm for better uptime of our ultimate, together with Masochistic. That way we will be able to heal better and we will stay at maximum health. Instead, you can bond here and take Skith Talons or Avian Wrath instead, which both are pretty good, but I currently prefer Masochistic since I think it's more stable. So, talking about Wrathful Hearts, I think the best ones are the ones that I'm using. It's mostly Wrathful Heart of the Barber, it's Brutal Heart of the Revenge, and Devil's Heart of the Calculated. But there's like a few decent options that I wanted to showcase in case you might need them. If you don't have the Barber, you should always use the Cage Heart of Malignant Pact. This one is pretty good, it gives a lot of attack speed, together with chance for current basic skills to fully restore your primary resource, which is good. We don't really need the barrier here, but that way it's still good enough. There was also an option to use Cage Heart of Inexorable Force, so that way distant enemies will be pulled to us, but I don't really like it since sometimes it creates really bad situations, especially in higher tier dungeons. But a lot of people are enjoying it and you should try it too, maybe you will like it. The second good option is Cage Heart of the Dark Dance. That way, sometimes we spend life instead of primary resource, and our skills can deal increased damage. This one is pretty good, and you should definitely try to use it if you think your spirit is not in a good position right now and you don't have enough. And moving to the last one, there is Cage Heart of Tempting Fate, which gives us a lot of critical strike damage, but we deal less non-critical strike damage. This one is definitely worth it, and it's a really good damage bonus. I'm currently not using it since I just don't have space. But you can always drop the Devious Heart of the Calculated here and get this one instead. That's pretty much our main options, and I would say Barber currently is performing the best, so if you have it, always try to use it. So that was the build. Try it out and I'm sure you will enjoy going really fast. Stay tuned for more Diablo 4 content, subscribe and like this video, and see you next time.